Welcome back to Weekend Live. Well, Republicans are looking to move forward from the impeachment process, despite some Democrats settling their sights on more investigations. Following the president's acquittal, both sides will continue their respective probes into Donald Trump and Hunter Biden. Joining me now live to discuss is Professor Joe Siracusa from RMIT. Professor, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
My pleasure, Danica.
Firstly, why do you think that impeachment failed?
Well, it failed because it never had a chance. I mean, very simply, the House of Representatives impeached the president along party lines. The House is run by the Democrats. And very simply, the Senate acquitted the president of 2 charges of abuse of power and contempt of Congress, really, and along party lines. So this is a no-brainer. I mean, everyone along the Beltway in Washington was very excited about what was going to happen next and who the next witnesses are going to be and all the rest of it. But it was sort of a storm in a teacup. I mean, what is extraordinary is the president's ratings are as high as they've ever been. More Americans now identify with the Republican Party than they do with the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party has to eat crow for the next period of time. And they seem to be in disarray. They don't know how to beat this guy who's starting to look an awful lot like Ronald Reagan. What I mean by that is the Teflon president. Nothing seems to stick. So he's in a terrific position right now. He's running the table with these people, and he's starting to fire people around him who bothered him, that is, who gave testimony against him. I mean, they're not going to a gulag, they're just going to the unemployment line. And so he'll get rid of all those people and clean them up. And he's going to look kind of nasty, and he is kind of nasty, so you expect that from a boss like that. But he's having a great week. And then, you know, Nancy Pelosi showed everybody how frustrated the Democrats were when she tore up his speech, yes, which is something you'd expect from a 15-year-old kid giving someone a tantrum. I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me. I mean, the one thing the Democrats had going for them is they look kind of classy towards the end. Now they don't look classy at all. They look as bad as he does.
Well, we will get to the State of the Union speech, but, you know, in terms of impeachment, obviously this is a presidential election year. Who wins and who loses now out of this whole saga?
Well, the president is now able to go to the American electorate in December and tell them, I'm sorry, in November, and tell them that he beat the odds, that he beat the people who were trying to diminish his administration, which has a lot of positives. The economy's doing well, and unemployment is down low. And, you know, even if the president's relations with world leaders are rocky, he's the only guy in my lifetime, at least since the cell phone was invented, who has all the world leaders on speed dial. So Barack Obama couldn't call anybody. This guy can call anybody he wants, though that doesn't take us out of the woods in terms of what could happen next with Iran or Russia or even China, etc. But, you know, he's starting to look pretty good, and I don't know what's going to take to stop him. Right now, the 2 leading candidates for the Democratic Party are 38-year-old mayor from South Bend, Indiana, which is mainly known for Notre Dame football, and a 78-year-old Democratic socialist from Vermont. Well, whoever thought Bernie Sanders would be there? And so we got 2 guys who don't exactly appeal to the heartland of America in the same way that Trump does. But this Trump story is an extraordinary yarn, and it's becoming more and more extraordinary as we go along.
Yeah, it's absolutely the way to put it, extraordinary. Let's move on now to this week's State of the Union address. What particularly stood out to you in terms of Donald Trump's speech?
Well, look, back in the day when I visited my in-laws in Florida, I used to go to the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. They had their headquarters down there, and that's what I thought I was. I thought I was at the Donald Trump Circus. You know, he is the ringleader or the master of ceremonies, and yeah, guy did television for 14 years. And keep in mind, he was also president of the American Wrestling Association. He used to have wrestling television rights. So he knows to put on a show. He had a lot of people in the gallery, and a lot of people show up out of nowhere, and he pulled at our heartstrings. It was great television. And he's also told the Democrats he's coming for them, and he's literally daring them. Now, I think the moment that he made the shock jock a Medal of Freedom winner, that's sort of a low moment. It's never been done like that. And of course, these guys never expect to get the Medal of Freedom, but you know, that Trump decided to take a chance on his conservative audience that they'd like it, and they did. So at the end of the day, he was doing such a great job that I think Pelosi just got terribly frustrated, and the lady tore up the speech. She tore it up twice, by the way, the first half and the second half. So she didn't like either one of them.
Right.
And you know, I've seen this act before, Danica. You know, this is what the family court judge calls irreconcilable differences. And ain't nothing going to put these people back together again.
No, that's very true. Professor, he spoke about a number of issues, as you said, the economy, jobs, the military. What do you think he will be prioritising, particularly ahead of November?
Well, I think he's going to run on the economy, and I think it's a pretty good ticket. Wall Street's done very, very well since he's been in office. I mean, keep in mind the captains of industry don't give a damn about the soap opera going on in Washington. They're just worried about the economy, and it's been doing very, very well, both jobs and prosperity. And of course, he's modernizing the American military, which of course is billions and billions of dollars to companies like Northrop and Raytheon and Boeing and all the rest of them. They're building systems we haven't even heard of yet. So the economy is doing very well, and as I say, Wall Street tends to ignore the soap opera in Washington. But you know, the really interesting figure is that the Pew Research and the Gallup poll for the last 20 years or 15 years have showed that the American public has the greatest contempt for the American Congress. They have no faith in it. Over 75% of Americans have given up on Congress's ability to get anything done. So I think the beneficiary of that would be the president, whether it was Barack Obama and America's love affair with him for a while, or they're drifting towards Donald Trump. They see in the executive somebody who can make up for the weaknesses in the American version of the Parliament or the Congress. So American contempt for Congress continues to grow, while the American love affair with the executive, that is the guy in the Oval Office or the woman coming in the Oval Office, tends to grow. So this is a very interesting yarn. I've seen 13 presidents in my lifetime, but I've never seen anybody get away with as much stuff as this guy. And you know, at the end of the day, he may be a one-off, or he might be sort of the prototype of Trump 2.0, and God knows what that'll look like.
Well, it's always fascinating, the world of US politics. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Professor Joe Siracusa, thank you so much for joining me.